Good morning to all present. Today we will have a very interesting debate on a current topic. The motion to debate is this: should trans athletes have their own league? We will start with Team A, composed of Ariella Cabrera, Javier Angulo, and my person, Verónica Hernández. Then follow Team B, composed of Vanessa Lujan, Julieth Moreno, and Andrea Du Boulay.
Currently, usually transsexuality in the beginning controversial in a special fan sport. For the more 15 years, trans community thus begin competing to being a citizen in the International Olympic Committee. For the reasons, and again trans athletes haven't turned that a league. If the person identifies opposite genders, that the person born man identifies woman makes or man and the sexually trafficked and the sock down. During the war, the very informally and participate at people saying on the sets that the exclusive on the right now. The vice president of the Argentina Union Rugby, Nestor Galan, cites the problem where the translation playing and practical sport the first division. If the person that document cites a woman, that alone play for. The jury the spread with the by. While Carlos Araujo, president of the Iranian, reaffirmed the man-woman can play on the team with the corresponding identity.
As we know, today war has lived in discrimination against the LGBTQ community. Still, in the war, there are millions of people who despise, judge, and discriminate against people from this community. The same happens with transgender people. For us, our position in the debate is in favor. We agreed to create a league from transgender people. Why we're in favor? Because in the world there are millions of people in this condition. As we are well told that there are organizations that will have no problem accepting trans in sport games. There is a small requirement that they ask us to be able to enter if the person has a document that say she is a woman, is entitled to play with women, but in the other for a document will be needed to determine the identity in which you feel identified. So creating a transgender league will not have to be has dense kinds of limitation, and that too could be called a type of discrimination against transgender people.
To ensure fair competition, in the 2015, the International Olympic Committee Medical and Scientific Commission reviewed with the help and panel of experts available clinical and scientific evidence on sex regimen kits and impaired drunkenness in female athletes and published guidelines to ensure as face as possible that transgender athletes are not excluded from the opportunity to participate in the sport competition. Experts in the field assured that after a year of hormonal estrogen treatment or testosterone suppression, despite any psychical evidence that a transsexual woman could have due to her testosterone levels prior to her transition. Transvocate points out in his article that the hypothesis that a transsexual woman competing in feminine team has a competitive advantage over cis woman sampler because she is transsexual beyond the scope of their performance and the competitive advantage that already exists among female athletes in cannot be demonstrated.
When created a leave for transsexual trans men and women will not have to abide by the laws of competent organization. As experts in the field cite that after a year of hormonal treatment or testosterone suppression, any advantage disappears. But because trans people will have to wait a year to compete in sport organization, it would not be better to able to compete whether you are starting in the middle of the finishing the treatment, also taking into account that the physical aspect of trans men and women are sufficiently notorious compared to non-trans men and women. In the case of the list, trans men and women would have to wait to finish their process, but creating the league for them will have no limitation in that regard with the admission of any who considered himself transgender without any problems.
At the 1936 Summers Olympic in Berlin, it was Super League began to make black athletes, and their own racist time was the rise. That even received by liking that rising discrimination and inequality. Give this, who want to do us the fact the threat and the broad this case as transphobic and the prominent discriminatory ideas to the members of the LGBT community and there has for the first on the right.
There would be no validity to call us transphobics if we do not agree with the participation of people who were from a man or a woman. Others would have been physically modified, referred to the disapproved of the language for black athletes. The skin tone does not speak and nothing to the with anatomy. For example, men have a much more developed musculature and women are more flexible, scented and sampled to a trans woman doing gymnastics would not have the same flexibility and agility as a woman or woman. Do you believe that a man born male and a transsexual man would have the same capacity in the term of strength, or a trans woman would have the same flexibility and as a woman born female?
The competitive advantage argument, as expected, is used only to exclude trans women from competitions, cites the article in Sport on Air magazine. The AOC regulation, for example, allowed trans men to participate in male competitions without preconditions, while trans women must have been under hormonal treatment for a certain period of time before they can compete in the female category. This whole situation seems rather a matter of common sense and excuse to exclude the trans community from sports, because if strength is spoken of, then it must also be taken into account that there are cis women, born women, who have more strength biologically than others. Is already a matter for everyone and their physique. On the other hand, Juan Gutiérrez, president of the Argentine Volleyball Federation, along with Mariano Céspedes, a FIBA lawyer, admitted that there are no impediments for a transsexual to play with any gender he wants. The regulations and the change of sex does not depend on the sport, but on the state. Gutierrez summers it. He added, for use what the document says is what certifies the status of each player.
Nowadays, and through history, the Olympic has always separated the two genders for different reasons. Why integrate transgender people is a biologically we are created with different abilities, anatomically, chemically. We today want to integrate with the challenge demand in is skill and physical ability.
Do you think it's time to put discrimination aside? It is time to move forward as a society and accept ourselves as we are, to support and grow together. Transgender athletes are human beings like all of us having chance sets does not make the difference and so we must respect and support in competing with everyone else.